Hello, I'm Matt Dean and welcome to My Northern Roots. This is a podcast about how the transformation of a 160-acre site in Oldham, Greater Manchester, is inspiring me and other local residents to connect back to their town and heritage. From November 23 to May 24, I'm working as part of a team of community champions for the Northern Roots charity on a project called Beautiful Oldham, Why Not? A project that will culminate in a small festival of the same name on the Northern Roots site on the 26th of May 2024. As we've already discovered on the podcast, the idea for this project was inspired by Mary Higgs and a letter that she wrote to the Oldham Chronicle at the turn of the 20th century. We don't know much about Mary, but we do know that she must have been a real character, someone with bold ideas, lots of drive and determination. So it's no wonder then that one of our community champions, Sue, has developed a real affinity with her. I describe Sue in very much the same way as I would Mary. So when I sat down to record a bit of a chat with her, it turned out to be worthy of an entire episode. Just as Mary did, Sue believes in the actions of small things and the power that has to make a big difference.
My name's Sue Fink. Yeah, I actually live in the row of cottages that is right next to Northern Roots. So I'm literally 20 paces away from the site.
It's almost like the Northern Roots site is an extension of your back garden, isn't it, really?
Absolutely. And I've always felt like that about Alexander Park. I've always lived here 24 years and spent hours in Alexander Park walking around. So it's been really nice to see Northern Roots take over some of the really neglected areas of land, and it's great to be part of it.
This is an interesting conversation to have because I've not spoken to anybody who's like so physically close to the site, because I think everybody here has got some kind of connection to it in some way, whether it's from the town or whatever. But over that 24 years, what has your relationship been like with the site? What's the site been like to have on your doorstep? And how have you been not affected by Northern Roots since they came in 7 years ago, but what's that your understanding and your relationship with that been like as well?
Well, when I moved in here at first, the rear of the houses was an old back entry, and the council had a gated scheme where they came in gated areas, and we created a garden there. So I've always been a gardener. At the back of the house as well, there are allotments, and I do have an allotment there. So I've always been connected with the earth. I've always loved nature. I've always wanted a big garden and never had one. But my allotment's my big garden. And Alexander Park feels a lot of people that were born here, spent hours as children in the park, think of it as their park. And the same with the area that Northern Roots is on now. So people at first, when Northern Roots started, thought, oh no, what they're going to do? Are they going to spoil the area? That was the first impression that people got. But now it's beginning to develop, and things are happening like the urban farm. People are beginning to see what a great project it is. And because I live so close, I see it daily, I see it weekly, I see so many changes for the better. And the whole site, people are beginning now to recognise how important it's going to be.
What's the site been like over the years? Has it been well looked after? Has it been neglected? Has it been vandalised? Has it been misused? Has it been well used?
Well, I think the fields, football pitches have always been used, and people have always walked dogs down here. One thing that the council have done is gated the car park. And the only problem that I have living here is car parking. And when the football matches are on Saturdays and Sundays, people don't park properly because there's no marking on the car park. But one thing, so that's a problem, car parking. One thing that has improved in the area. The council gated the car park at night. So it was a hot spot for burned out cars. It was vandalism, gangs messing around, just general antisocial behaviour. And a lot of that has stopped. The only problem that still remains is scramble bikes, but you can't fence the whole area. But Northern Routes have gated a lot of places, and it has reduced slightly the incidence of scramble bikes flying down the road, nearly hitting people. There was an incident on the field with one of them hit a child playing football. That was quite serious. But it's not deterred them. And the problem is nobody will deal with it because the police don't deal with it, the council can't deal with it, and if anybody does approach some of these bikers, they get abused. So and I know it's not us, it's lots of green areas have this problem with bikes. So that's the only negative about the area. But it's been really nice to see it improve. And obviously land management, that's something I didn't understand. I didn't see the need to chop trees down. To me, I don't think anybody should chop a tree down. But that's just my ignorant view. But when you realise that you have to manage land and the reason for chopping trees down, then you realise the sense behind it. So it's been a learning experience for lots of people. And the area is definitely looking so much nicer. I love living here. I think it's a green oasis in the middle of Oldham. I feel like I live in the countryside. In fact, I pretend I do.
You're right. It has that feeling. I mean, that little row of cottages you live in is lovely. So I've always thought it was lovely, that little row. So you're invested then in the Northern Routes project because, like you said, it's happening in your back garden. The community champion role then, the beautiful Oldham Why Not? How did you get involved in it? How did you find out about it? And what's it been like so far?
Right. Our chairman on the allotments received a letter way before the polytunnels were put up, way at the very, very beginning of the Northern Routes project. And quite a few of us on the allotment had said we'd like to keep bees. And we just said it as passing because the allotment's organic, nobody uses chemicals, and it's a really nice little site. So Northern Routes created a beekeeping course, and I applied to go on it with Steve, another allotment person, and we got on the course. So that was my first introduction to Northern Routes. It was amazing. It was fantastic. It was held on the car park at the time, near where the tractors are kept and where the little apiary there. And so that was my introduction. And then COVID hit, which was a nightmare. We managed to finish it online, but that was when I first got involved with Northern Routes. And then the urban farm started to develop, and being nosy, I would wander down and chat to people, and people knew where I lived, and I got to know Kimmo, and then I went to the Illuminate, wandered around there, and met other people, and then gradually you get to know people. And so a lot of my preconceived ideas, like, why are they cutting trees down and what they're doing this for, I soon realised that you shouldn't make comments like that if you don't know what you're talking about. It's very easy to judge without knowing the facts. And so I ended up apologising to a lot of people for being quite negative about the project, and completely changed my mind when I got to know people. And then I met Anna and the beekeeping course, and it's gone from there. So then when this community champion role came up, I thought, I'd love to do that. I'm retired, I've got lots of time, lots of energy, and so I applied, and they took me on. So I'm really, really enjoying it. It's just great.
Tell us about Mary Higgs.
Well, you see, it's terrible because I'd never heard of Mary Higgs, and I think that's awful. I'd never heard of Annie Kenny. I didn't know who Annie Kenny was. I knew she was a suffragette, but I didn't know anything else. And so when they told me about Mary Higgs, beautiful Oldham, why not? I just thought, wow, what a woman to come to dirty, grimy Oldham in the 1800s. Can you imagine what it must have been like to come from Wiltshire? And she was a very, very educated woman, and she married a vicar and came to Oldham. I can't imagine what she must have thought when she came. She looked around this dirty, grimy, smoky, horrible place and decided, beautiful Oldham, why not? which I thought was amazing. And she got friendly because she was a suffragette with the Lees family and created this beautiful Oldham competition. And I believe she gave every child in Oldham a bulb to grow and show at the competition. And it snowballed and it became an amazing event. And again, I didn't know anything about it. So researching, they joke because they call me Mary. They keep saying they're going to get me a Mary wig. And but I've just really connected with this whole idea, mainly because I love growing things. I love nature. And I just think it's a shame that more people don't know about her. And when you talk to people about Mary Higgs and about the project, everybody loves it. And the idea of resurrecting or recycling. You see, I'm a recycler. Being an allotment here, we patch and mend and reuse things all the time. So I'm right into recycling. And to recycle the beautiful Oldham project, I think is right down my street. And so I'm really enjoying spreading the word and maybe getting seriously involved with this beautiful Oldham competition and reaching children because they're the future. I think it's such a shame that children think carrots come from Tesco. And so I think Northern Roots has got a fantastic opportunity to reach the children of Oldham and teach them how to grow things. It's about sustainability, it's about recycling, it's about connecting with the earth and getting kids off their iPhones and away from television and out there playing in dirt and enjoying themselves.
Yeah, I really love the concept of the beautiful Oldham Society, and like you said, it feels like it's been dormant for a while, and it feels like it should be reborn. I feel like there's a need for it. I think there's a need to engage and enthuse people with the idea that this town, which, you know, as people, it's funny because you say like it's seen better days. It's in terms of, in some respects, but then really it was never really a glorious place. Like you said, the place that Mary came to would have been dirty and smoggy and dirt. Like, you know, it was born to be an industrious place. It's probably as nice as it's ever been in some respects anyway, in terms of, you know, we don't have all that stuff, but at the same time there are areas that are run down and neglected. And I think the point of making somewhere beautiful is that it can help raise everybody's aspirations and make everybody feel better and and help the town flourish. And I think we're at a point where we do need that as a town to feel that optimism and hope that we're going to flourish and grow.
Well, yeah, quite agree. About, I can't remember how many years ago now, 15 years ago, the council had a regeneration scheme on Ashton Road. And at the time I had a hairdressing salon and I was very involved with it. And they had millions of pounds to regenerate Ashton Road from Hathershaw to the junction, the top of Coxter Hill Road. And part of that scheme, what they did, they created a flower competition. And it wasn't just for people with gardens, because most people have a backyard. Now, I've got a backyard, and there's not room for another pot. It's heaving. And so we had this flower competition. And the way it brought the community together was fantastic. And when they had the flower competition, they had all these beautiful photographs of backyards that you drive past every day, and you have no idea how beautiful some of them were. And it brought the community together. It was wonderful. We used to meet at the community centre, and then there was this there were competition. The prizes were like a £5 voucher or a packet of seeds. The prizes didn't matter. It was the pride that people had in their little patches, which is so connected to Mary, because the people that she reached out to they had a yard. I've got a yard, but you wouldn't believe my yard was a yard because it looks like a garden because there's so many pots. And Mary encouraged people to grow things in a tiny pot. She taught people that a few seeds in a little pot in a corner will help pollinators. And not only will it give you pleasure to look at it, because flowers are visually attractive and nice to look at, but they also help the environment. And
what was the legacy of that project 15 years ago? Like everybody was doing that back then. Has it continued, or does it like have a bit like a flower? Does it bloom for a bit and then sort of disappear, and has it come back every year or not?
Well, while the project was running, I think it ran for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and then it died a death because nobody took it on. I suppose the people that ran it were funded, and then once it stopped, nobody took it on, which was a shame, because at the rear of the cottages we have a gated area now. And when I first moved in that house, I was a rep. I was on the road, and I would come in at night and gag in for a gin and tonic. And there was no sun on my actual yard, but there was sun on the outside of the yard, what was the alley. So I used to go out there, and it was a dump. It was running water. It was horrendous. And so I cleared a little area, and so I would sit in the sunshine for 10 minutes and do my paperwork. And then one of my neighbours said, "Oh, you made a little spot there, blah, blah, blah." Anyway, cut long story short, there was running water, and we contacted the council because the grid was blocked at the bottom. Council came along, did the grid for us, saw these beautiful cobbles, and said, "Can we take these cobbles and we will tarmac the back for you?" So we said, "Yeah, of course you can." So they came, tarmacked it and gated it. So then we got stuck in, and we created a garden, and we won competitions with this not Northern Roots, with the regeneration of Ashton Road. And people came down to look what we'd done and copied the idea. We even had Joe Swift from Gardener's World came down. And it was fabulous, just this theme of gardening. And this flower competition was amazing. Everybody loved it. And to sit there and not know who'd won and hear your name called out because you'd won a packet of wildflower seeds, it was like winning the lottery. It was fabulous. It was such a great community thing to do. Everybody loved it.
I think that it's an interesting point, like, you know, when there's somebody paid or funded to run something, it will run for that term. Communities need to take ownership of things if they're going to last for years and years and years. And if something like if we could sort of reinvigorate the Beautiful Oldham Society and have representatives in different areas of the town, and we could get projects and we could fundraise, and it could be some kind of a charity or a CIC or something that we could that I can see that becoming a legacy. When you're talking about that there, I'm thinking about all the backings around the back of where I live, and the houses, they're all gated off. I used to ride my bike up and down them when we were kids, and, you know, a little BMX track. But now it's just nothing. And it could be something. It could be something so much, because it's a private, and it all looks back, and that extension of your back garden. Yeah. It could be something so much more special if somebody or some people within the community, within that very small localised part of the community, just had the energy and the desire to do it.
The people that ran I keep getting mixed up with Northern Roots and the Regenerate, that's it. They said, "Can we bring people to show them?" And we said, "Yeah, of course you can." We were so proud of it. Yeah. And people came, and then I remember a lady coming from Failsworth. Now, there's a beautiful gated area in Failsworth that they created, having seen ours. It's fabulous. I just think it's a shame that everybody's fractured and nobody communicates. And it's such a nice way to bring people together, especially with children involved. And of course, all of these projects, growing, pollination, recycling, it's all in the curriculum because children have lost that connection with recycling. We're all recycling now, we're all into that mode. But I just think a flower show would bring so many people together. I think it's a superb idea. I'm really excited to get it going.
There's loads of potential from this project. It feels to me, I've said this before when I've been talking to people, but it feels like getting involved in this is a bit of a life-changing type thing, because I know that I'm going to want to keep getting involved in it, and I know I'm going to want to contribute more to it. And like even now, that thinking about out the back. I've thought about this before, about going round to the neighbours and the different streets that back onto these and doing something. But now I feel like I've got the inspiration to actually do it. And I feel like it doesn't necessarily have to fall into this as a community champion role, or I can link it to it. But this is about trying to do stuff, a bit like Mary, that has a legacy, that, you know, has a positive impact and other people can take on, and has a contribution to a small little group. And like you said, with your shows, inspires other people around the town. And that's why I think having something like a beautiful Oldham society, because we can all share these photos and have groups on Instagram, Facebook and all that kind of stuff. And it could spread from what Northern Roots is doing across the town. That's my hope. I'm sure you feel the same.
Absolutely. And being a beekeeper taught me the importance. We all know that bees are threatened, but bees are not the only pollinators. We've got butterflies. There are so many hoverflies, insects that go in and out of flowers all day and all night. So at night you've got moths, and they do an amazing job of pollination. And it's teaching people about that, about the importance. And I'm a great believer in the action of small things. And if everybody just had one pot in the back garden of wildflowers, the right wildflowers, the flowers, you see, people buy a lot of bedding plants, and parks are very guilty of making these civic displays that are absolutely devoid of any natural wildlife at all. Because most bedding plants that you see are not attractive to wildlife, because they've been bred so intensively that they've lost, it's like so many flowers have lost the perfume because they've been overbred. But natural wildflowers are where the bees and the pollinators get their food. So just to plant the right flowers in a pot, it's amazing how quickly the pollinators will find it. It's crazy. I remember in my backyard cleaning a frame that had been in my beehive, and I'd washed it and put it outside to dry, and there's obviously, it still smelled of honey, and within 15 minutes it was covered in bees. I couldn't believe it. I thought, how do they know that frame is on my little table drying in the sunshine? But they do, and they are attracted by, they've got they can smell. So just to encourage people and to teach them why we need pollinators, because I think it was Einstein said, if the bees go, we've got 3 or 4 years, and then we've had it, because so much food is pollinated by these little insects. And kids don't know about it. And I just think, I don't know, somewhere along the way that we've lost this connection with nature, whether that's modern life, whether it's modern teaching. But I think with the recycling, we're going back now. And I think it's such a good thing. And I think Northern Roots can play a crucial part in it. Certain councils have pollinator plans in place where councils actually save money by being more pollinator aware. So they reduce the amount of grass cutting they do, which saves them money. They allow grass to establish and sow wild seeds. Now, Oldham Council have done some fabulous little areas. So as you go down to Sainsbury's and you turn in off the bypass, there's 2 or 3 banks of fabulous wildflowers. Everybody comments on them.
It makes all the difference, doesn't it?
They are amazing. I mean, the central reservation on the bypass, those daffodils, oh my God. Every year I am bowled over by the fact that there's millions of daffodils, and they're heaving with wildlife. And when they started all this roadworks, I was straight on to Glendale and saying, well, I hope you're looking after these daffodils. I hope these big burly builders are not digging up the daffodils, because that was my concern, that, you know, they were digging up this. But yeah, it's... And flowers connect people. Everybody loves flowers. Every woman loves flowers. When men get in trouble, they buy the missus a bunch of flowers. And
I think it's just the simple act of like planting some seeds, then watching them grow, then seeing wildlife attracted to them, just connects you in, makes you realise that you're part of something bigger. And nature is that thing, whatever you want to call it, is that thing that is bigger than you are. Yeah. And like you were saying about the reasons why we're not connected to it anymore, it's through urbanisation and living in towns and cities and just becoming more and more disconnected with the natural world. Yeah. And that, just that little act, and that's what you were saying about kids and some of your ideas that you've spoke about, how important that is to make them realise that they're part of something that you can't see. Well, you can see, but the language of nature, how it communicates with itself, you can't see, but it happens.
I think what happened was there was this explosion, it started in America, of industrial farming on a mega scale. So, and if you over-farm land and you keep digging it, you turn soil into dirt. And dirt creates dust bowls. So they had these dust bowls in America of valleys, hundreds of miles of land that were completely, you couldn't grow a thing in them because the soil had turned to dirt. And then people like David Attenborough, he brought this to the public's attention. And then with the internet age and everybody can Google things and all these nature programs, I think people have begun to realise the damage that we did in the 60s and 70s with chemicals. It was so easy to get a bottle and spray the hell out of your plants so that your roses grew and kill the green fly. And in doing that, we were killing all the insects as well. So I think fortunately now we're all educated and we now don't use these chemicals. And I think some of these big chemical companies have a lot to answer for with the neonicotinoids. We're killing bees. And I think once people realised that bees were dying and whole colonies were disappearing, they then connected the link to these chemicals. And that created this movement of more natural gardening. And people like Jeff Hamilton on Gardener's World, he was an advocate of organic gardening. In the 70s, he was somebody who inspired me. I was a blonde hairdresser who never got hands dirty. I had red fingernails and my hair was always pristine. And I saw him on Gardener's World and he got dirty jeans on where he'd been kneeling in mud and he just inspired me. And it was because of him I became a gardener, and he was one of the first organic gardeners who was looked on as a crackpot because he didn't spray, because he didn't believe in chemicals. And now that's the norm, and people who do spray are now the unusual ones. So it's gone full circle, and I just think this beautiful Oldham competition could be a way of connecting everybody in the town and connecting the people to Northern Roots, because we will be responsible for regenerating that. And I'm so happy to be part of that. And I hope Mary's watching. I hope she's listening somewhere because, she'd be proud of what we're doing, I think.
Next time on My Northern Roots. Oldham needs something like this, I think, something it can be really proud of. I think we've bottomed out as a town. We've reached as low as we're going to go in this kind of era, and our future is going to be a lot better.
This is a common story for every northern town.
Yeah.
They've all been through this same process. No wonder that sort of idea of your future has maybe been, it's been stamped down, and people feel that the positivity has been lost. But actually, if you look at northern towns, especially the boroughs around Manchester, they're all going through huge transformations.
These things can happen, but they need vision. That's why we all need to stay on the course.
The Beautiful Oldham Why Not project is a Northern Roots project funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund. If you'd like to learn more about Northern Roots, please visit northern-roots.uk. This podcast has been hosted, recorded, edited and produced by Matt Dean of QPod, Oldham's only dedicated podcast production company. For more info, please visit kupod.co.uk.